come up. All right. So one of the first things is that if you have some ideas of maybe how to share how teachers can connect with students to make sure that they see all students, as you mentioned.
Yes, definitely. Thank you for that question. Some of the ways that I would say or share with you, I would even create a file of my students, if possible, depending on your load of students, and just jot down some of the little things that they stand out, or even little stickies of letting them know something they did well that day. You're going to know which students need it the most, and you're going to also know which students are trying to be invisible. So I think that throughout the day, and I think that's also why we have to work as a team, because there are going to be some that we might miss. But if we work as a team with our fellow educators, we can make sure that every student is seen. Because there are some students that you're going to connect to that another teacher cannot. And there will be other students that other educators can connect you that you can't. And it's not because of you or that you're a bad educator, because I will be extremely honest. When my adopted parents took me in, I built such a strong relationship with my adopted mom, and I wanted nothing to do with my adopted dad. And it had nothing to do with my adopted dad at the time. It's just I associated him with the relationship I had with my father, so I wanted nothing to do with him. And my mom drove me to school. Her and I talked the entire time. And my adopted dad drove me to school. I just stared out the window and didn't even look at him until I got to school. And so eventually that relationship was built, but it had nothing to do with him. And it's the same way in the classroom. You know, I would walk into the classroom. I had a female teacher. I loved it. I had a male teacher. I pushed him away. And it had nothing to do with him. It was my pain. And so I think that as we continue to build relationships with students, we can strengthen it by letting them know they're seen. And be creative. Be creative on how you do that. Post-it notes help. I know Miss Barrera, my favorite teacher, and we can't do this with all kids, but I know that she knew my story. She dug a little deeper than most teachers to find out what was happening to me and who I was. And so every now and then she would show up with an extra taco that she made. And she was like, Roy, I brought you a taco. So that's probably why I loved her so much.
Mm-hmm. All right. So the next question is, do you have any advice to share with students and teachers who are struggling during this pandemic?
Yeah, this is a time of an unknown for everyone. For everyone. Oh my gosh, this is such a hard time. And what a great question. I think that what I have seen from the many presentations that I've done during the pandemic, and even personally with the students that I work with, because I have youth groups as well, youth programs. It's just that constantly staying connected, but advice on how to effectively or to stay in contact. We would just have to watch for the signs for what we feel is missing in our kids and constantly checking in with them. But this is a time of unknown that I don't think I would be able to provide you the best advice on how to do that.
Thank you. Another question, what advice can you share for those here with us today who share a similar story as you?
I would say, don't give up, first of all. Love yourself enough to give yourself a chance. And the reason I say that is because the story that I just shared with you really messed me up. Made me really feel unworthy, unloved, not smart enough. So I literally had to write down who I wanted to be. And it was actually 13 things. And I had put it on my door, and I would have to read it to myself to retrain my mind that I was worth it, and that I was smart enough, and that I was capable. And every now and then, because I tell this story as much as I do, those demons come back up sometimes, and I have to rewrite it. And I have to continually tell myself, Roy, you got this. Roy, you can do this. And so I would say, don't give up on yourself. Love yourself enough to give yourself a chance.
So I think the next two questions kind of go hand in hand. The first is telling your story over and over re-traumatizes you each time. So how do you stay strong and hopeful? Where do you find your power? And it kind of goes with another question, which is what do you enjoy most about your job? Because your job, you know, involves all of those things. So I thought I might combine those two.
Thank you. Yeah, it does. It does re-traumatize me. There are days that it gets really bad that in order to go to bed, I have to barricade my door, just because I know that no one's going to come in and get me, because we were always in hiding from my dad. And he was always breaking into the places we were in hiding and when he found us. So for me, I'm not ashamed of crying. A good cry gets it out. I know that when I'm starting to get depressed, I open up my windows to let as much light in as possible. I try to get as much sunlight during those times. I change the type of music. I have a core group text message of core friends that their one and only job is don't let me give up. And I have that one friend who's like, Roy, you got this. Just think about all the young people that you've been able to help. And then I have the other friend that's like, dude, suck it up. Like, what's your problem? And I feel that I need both of them. Like they give me a good balance. So those are some of the ways that help me. If I just want to turn my brain off from it, I love going to the movies, which is now not really the best I can do, or I'll put on a movie because I get so lost into the movie that my brain shuts off. I also journal. Journaling is another great way, even if it's going to be to where I tear it up or burn it. I will write and write and write and write just to get it out. Right. And what do I enjoy most about my job? Usually, if it's an in-person presentation, my favorite part is right afterwards, is talking to the young people when they come up and then having them share. So I really enjoy that part.
Great. So one of the things that I took away this time in hearing your story, and I take something away different every time, is your perspective as a student who's hurting. And so that is so helpful when we think about the challenges of teaching and the behavior problems that we may have and managing classrooms. So one of the questions is your advice for teachers who feel rejection and pushback from struggling students.
I think that there's going to be a testing period because students want to know that you're real. Students want to know that you're more than just the teacher, but that you actually care about them. And so there are going to be little tests that are laid out to see whether you're legit or not. And kids can pick up on it right away. So I think that just constantly build that relationship. I don't say don't lower the bar just because, oh, they had a hard life. No, keep the bar high. Just provide the tools that they need to get there. So if you want to, help them perform better or raise a grade, then they're going to need the structure that they're not going to get at home. So they're going to need that extra time to take the test or study or that quiet place, or even learn how to create a quiet place and how to create study habits, because these are not things that we know. Like, we don't know what we don't know. And if our house is so chaotic, where am I going to find time to do that? Or how am I going to do that when I didn't even sleep the night before? So even sometimes, even if it's taking that nap that I need in the nurse's office, so it's going to be a case-by-case situation. But I think that if we go above and beyond, which is even asking a lot, now it's even harder because we're virtual. But I think another big part of it is just letting the kid know that they're seen. When a kid knows that they're seen, they don't want to lose you. Because for some, they feel your love, and they feel that's the only place they're going to get it. And so they're going to meet whatever bar you raise because they're too scared of losing you.
And thank you for saying that, because I think sometimes as we have conversations about equity for students, that this idea of equity and excellence are in competition with one another. And I think you've very well laid out that should not be the case. So a couple of other questions on a different topic. There's interest to know how baby Ray is now. How are your brothers and sisters? Could you give us an update about your family?
Can I share my screen and show my family?
Yes, please.
Perfect. Let me share my screen here and show you. Oh, let me minimize this. Let me make this bigger. Okay, so this is actually where I've been so far. So like, if you were to tell me when I was this homeless kid that all this would have happened, I would have never believed you. I would have never believed you. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. This is my family. So this was me when I was younger. I actually still own the white dress. I'm joking. I'm the one in the vest. And so, so that's my mom. That does not look like a face of a mother who wanted to hurt her kids. My mom is a wonderful person. She was just broken. Life was very hard. So even when it comes to parent support, you know, it's a big thing, but parents are human too. This is my siblings and my mom now and my mother's 60th birthday. You would have never known anything had ever happened. Luckily, all my siblings have adopted the concept of forgiveness and being better instead of bitter. And so we're extremely close. That's my sister, Amy. She's probably the one with the biggest heart out of all of us. That was my niece, Mia. When I started this journey, my sister had Mia and she was 3 pounds, 1 ounce. And we were so scared that we were going to lose her. But thank God that she made it through. So she's still with us today. This is my sister, Tammy. She's the one right above me. She was a 15-year-old. Tammy is probably my biggest advocate and my biggest protector. Tammy, no one can do anything to me because Tammy goes crazy to protect me. And so I'm grateful for my sister. Like if I need anything, I know that she has my back no matter what. She's probably the strongest one out of all of us too. My sister growing up was molested up into the age of 12 and became homeless at the age of 15. That is not a way to start life. And I would not blame my sister if she had chosen to be bitter, but what makes her amazing is that she chooses to be better. Tammy today is an advocate at the Rape Crisis Center as a hospital advocate. So any time of day or night, Tammy will go there with a young lady who has been sexually assaulted, and she will be with her through the entire process to make sure that she's not there alone. And I really think that that's amazing because I know that my sister has to relive her trauma every time she does that. So my sister is absolutely amazing. This is my 9-year-old, Danielle, and her partner down there at the bottom. We call him. I'm joking. No, his name is Tommy. I love him. I always joke with him that he's never going to be good enough for my sister. But anyways, that's a whole other story. I love my baby sister. She just bought her first house a couple of years ago. And she says, you know, Roy, sometimes I take the girls and we park outside one of the homes that we were in hiding. She goes, and we'll sit there and we'll eat. And I'll tell them what mommy went through. And I tell them, you will never have to go through that. But she wants them to know where she comes from. So I think that's absolutely amazing. This is baby Ray. I made him a promise. You will go to middle school, you will go to high school, and you will go to college. The year before last, baby Ray graduated from the University of Texas at San Antonio with his bachelor's degree in business. So this is like my kid. This is my baby. And to see him today, he's an amazing young man, very kind, very considerate, very giving. And I'm so glad that I was able to be here to see that. And I didn't check out early, or else I wouldn't have seen it. This is my mom and the police officer. They did get married. He's my stepdad, and I absolutely love the man. If it wasn't for him, I don't think I would have had a mom. My mom was very suicidal, and I think that she would have taken her life. I have a mom today because of him, and I will forever be grateful. He has apologized in many ways, and he is extremely good to her, and he's extremely good to us, and I'm very grateful for that. But change had to start somewhere. Let it start with you. This here, in the book, Homeless by Choice, when I was writing it, I had got word that I was going to be sued by an aunt and uncle on my dad's side. And I'm like, sued for what? Like, they don't even know what's in the book. I was like, that's cool. They got to buy it to read it. I sold one copy. And so I got a call one day because I gave a one-line dedication to my dad. I got a call one day and I answered the phone. I'm like, hello. And he's like, hey, you little rat. I'm like, Dad? Because that's how he would refer to me as a kid. And it was in a loving way. It wasn't a bad thing. And he's like, yeah, it's me. I was like, well, what do you want? He goes, so I heard you wrote a book. I said, I did. And he goes, I heard you put me in it. I said, I did, but I changed your name so you can't sue me. Like, it was an easy fix from English to Spanish, Roy to Rogelio. So in the book, he's Rogelio because I didn't want to get sued. He goes, well, that's not why I'm calling. I said, well, why are you calling? He said, well, if you're being honest, he said, then I'm ready. He goes, I'm so sorry. He goes, and I would take the blame for everything. And when he said that, I knew that he was different, because other times that I tried reaching out to my dad, he would never accept any responsibility. He would always be like, it's not my fault you were homeless. You were with your mother. It's her fault. But this time it sounded different. And I said, well, if you're being honest, why don't you come to my book launch? It's next week in San Antonio. He showed up. So for the first time in over 20 years, I had my entire family with me. You know, some people fight for a nicer house, a bigger car, a fatter paycheck, you know, and that's fine. Chase what you want. My chase was to bring my family back together. Not my parents married, like that's disgusting. They're better apart. I just wanted to be able to be with my entire family and in a room. And that night of my book launch, it happened. And it was absolutely amazing. This here is that picture. You can see the entire family. It's my biological father, then baby Ray, Danielle, me, Tammy, Amy, my mom, and my stepdad, and even my niece behind my biological dad picking her nose. You can see her down there. And but this is 20 years in the making. But my hope is that if I can try to help families have this, help young people way before it's too late, before all the mistakes I made and I still make, to love themselves a little more, to give themselves a chance. That's my mission. I want to try to help as many young kids as possible not give up before it's too late. My dad and I today, we're not there yet. I mean, we're well on our way, but we don't have like a deep relationship. He now calls me at least 2 or 3 times a month, which is amazing because I didn't talk to him for years. And so he calls all the time, just like, hey, I'm just checking in. When are you coming to San Antonio? Please come by and see me. I'm like, I will, Dad, as soon as I get there. So I'm very grateful to have him in my life. And but this is how you get the free book. I want to share this as well. Again, just make a post on social media and share what you learned today or what inspired you. But you have to use the 2 hashtags, Teach for LA and my name, Roy Juarez Jr., so that we can find it and we can know who is in the running for a free book. We're going to give several ways. So please, we would love to understand and see what your takebacks are and what was inspiring to you. So I'm going to close this shared screen. So go back to any questions that there might be. Teach for LA and Roy Juarez Jr.
Thank you so much, Roy, for sharing those pictures. I haven't even seen all of those pictures, so what a great update. So we had a question about the recording. Is it going to be available? The recording of the Q&A will be available, and we'll also be linking to, on YouTube, Roy, you have a mini documentary. So that's what we'll be providing with the other recordings for the Teach for LA virtual workshop series. So stay tuned for that. We'll be providing all of those, I believe, after the workshop series has been completed. And we only have about 5 minutes left. So if you have any other burning questions for Roy, now is your opportunity. But as we're waiting to see if there are other questions, I just wanted to say thank you again for joining us in our work in LA as we are trying to bring more students into the pipeline of teaching and really change our community. You know, one of our missions is that students from the community in which they live make the best teachers in that community because they've experienced similar situations and circumstances as the children that they will have in their classroom. And how inspiring to have a mentor that can speak to you in a way that someone who has a different experience may not be able to. So for you future teachers here with us today, I hope that you've seen through Roy's story just how impactful a teacher can be and the difference that it made. And that, you know, we say in Teacher Track that we touch the future. And this is a perfect example that you don't necessarily see the fruits of your labor right off, but all of those teachers that poured themselves into Roy are a little bitty part of the lives that he is impacting now. So Anyway, we thank you so much for sharing your story and for being with us today.
Thank you so much. It's an honor. I currently live in Dallas, Texas, but in February, I'm moving back to Los Angeles. So I'm super excited about that. So I'll be back soon, and I can't wait to the next time that we'll be able to be in person together, Ms. Colleen. So I'm so excited.
Great. One question came in really, and it might be too big to answer, but you know, I think with trying to teach online, having students engage is always difficult, especially when not all can turn on their cameras. You know, when you're a younger person, you don't always know what's best for you, and you're not fully participating. So there was a question if you have any advice about how to get them to log on and chat with us. How do you see that is there something that you could do as a teacher to get them to connect more in this virtual space?
Just right off the top of my head, I would even consider creating like a small core group of student leaders, because they're going to probably be more apt to talk to their fellow students than to you right away. And so even if you had like 2 or 3 student leaders who would be able to touch base with those students who are not as active or interactive online, that might be one of the ways to get that done. When I was younger, I had ran a student leadership program, and it was really hard getting the students involved at first. So I created a core group of 7 students who we called Project 7, and their job was to reach out to those students to get them to engage. And before I knew it, we had about 150 in my leadership group when we started with just 20. And so that might be another way.
Amazing. Those are on the spot questions. Thank you so much for your insight. And anyway, I will be sending the chat to you so you can feel the love from our participants today. And again, I want to thank you for being here. Shout out also to Leah Martinez for her leadership in this virtual workshop series. She is our leader for the Teach for LA collaborative and was the one that originally reached out to you, Roy. So I just want to make sure to also recognize Leah Martinez from Rio Hondo and her contributions. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much. We encourage you to fill out the survey, which you will find in the chat, and also to continue to attend other Teach for LA events that we will have throughout the rest of the month. Have a great day.
Take care.